Okay, hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to download and install Visual Studio Community Edition for your Windows machine. Now, the Visual Studio is the code editor that we're going to be using for CPSC 1012, the Programming Fundamentals course for Digital Media and IT. And Visual Studio is available for both Windows and Mac computers. So even if you have a Mac, you're going to be okay here. In this video, I'm just going to walk through the download and install for Windows, but I'll do a follow-up in which I'll do the exact same steps. I'll download and install Visual Studio for Mac as well. And you can download Visual Studio online from the Azure for Education website. And all you're going to have to do once you get there is sign in with your innate student account credentials, and then you should be able to get to the free software download page and download the product. So let's get it. Okay, in my web browser here, you can see I've already signed into my Moodle section. You'll notice it's a little bit different than your specific class instance, and that's okay. This is just the master that I use to create all of my individual class sections from. So the links and the layout should look pretty similar, if not identical. And so we could just go directly to the Azure for Education website by typing the address in the address bar. But to make it a little bit easier, if you scroll down here in your Moodle section under course resources and links, I've put in a link here to take you directly to that page. And like I said here in the note, you're just gonna have to log in with your innate email address. That's fine. Do a software search for Visual Studio and away you go. So I'm just going to open this in a new tab. And you'll see that it brings us to a Azure for Education website and gives you some information here. If you're a student, hey, all you got to do is basically sign in. So when you click on this sign in button over here on the right, it's going to ask you to sign in with your organization credentials. So just sign in with your innate student account information. I'm already signed in, so it's going to bring me right to the Azure page. But after you sign in, you should be brought to this same page. It takes a second to load up. Okay, and so once we're here, it's going to give you a little welcome screen. You're on the Azure Education Hub. There's a couple of options over on the left menu, and you can discover and learn. But what we're interested in for this particular walkthrough is just the free stuff. So we can click on the download software button here, and that's going to bring you to exactly what it sounds like, software download page, where you can see there are 138 items, at least at the time of this recording, which is far more than we're going to need. We don't need all these different software products, but as a student, you can see what's available. There's lots of stuff in there if you wanted to kind of mess around or explore some other things. But for us, let's just narrow this down a little bit. In the search box, I'm going to type in Visual Studio, and that's going to narrow down to these 14 items. And you'll see there's a couple of different versions here. The one that we're interested in for this particular walkthrough is Visual Studio Community 2019. So you could get Enterprise or some of these other versions, but the Community Edition is going to be fine for what we need to do. And if you're on your Mac, you would download the Visual Studio 2019 for Mac option here. So I'll show you that in another video like I mentioned earlier. So for now, if you just go ahead and click on Visual Studio Community 2019, it's going to bring up on the right side here, hey, do you want to go ahead and download this installer? You just click on the download button, and that's going to download it for you. I've already gone ahead and downloaded it, so I'm not going to do that again. But if you click on this button, it's just going to download it to your machine into your downloads folder. So what you want to do there is you want to get into your downloads folder. You should see the installer file. It looks something like this. And at this stage, we want to execute this file to begin the installation process. So you can just double click on this file. And it's going to do a little bit of its thing. Say, hey, I'm running this installer. And then you're going to get a little pop-up here that says, hey, do you want to allow this to make changes? And of course we do, because we want the software. So you say yes. And then it's going to pop up another little dialog here, Visual Studio Installer. And it's going to say we have to make some changes and you want to read some privacy statements. No, we're just going to go ahead and continue, please. It's going to go ahead, do some downloading and installing the things that it needs to do the installation process for us. But then once that's complete, it's going to pop up with some configuration options for Visual Studio. Okay, so once that's done, you should get a little option pop up here that gives you some things to change for the workloads and individual components. Basically, it's asking, is there anything in addition to the default that you want to install here? And for us, we want to create console applications. Okay, we're not going to make Windows Forms applications or anything like that. Command line applications are enough. So we want to make sure that under the workload section here at desktop and mobile, that the .NET desktop development, that's checked off. So just check that box. It's going to show you what options it's going to need to install here. Now, I've previously gone ahead and installed this just to make sure I had all the steps proper. So you'll notice the total space required for my install is 0. It's already gone ahead and done that in the past. But for you, it's going to come up with a number that's pretty close to 5 gigabytes. So the installation process is going to take a little bit of time, probably about 5 minutes, depending on your network connection and machine speed, etc. But it'll take a little while. So just make sure you've got this box checked. It's going to save us some time, some headaches getting started later on. And then what you're going to do is click on the install button here, and that's going to kick off the installation process. Like I said, you're going to want to walk away, grab a coffee or something, and come back. It's going to take about 5 minutes. Okay. But once that's finished, you're going to see a page or screen that looks something like this. If you have the default checkbox checked, it's going to launch Visual Studio by default. So you're going to have Visual Studio fire up on its own. You're going to see a couple of configuration settings at the very beginning. It'll be somewhat similar to what I'm about to show you here. So if you launch this, it's going to put a splash screen, and then you're going to be shown an options dialog in between here. It's going to ask you what development environment you want, what color schemes you want. So I've gone ahead and I've chosen the dark color scheme, and you could choose blue or the light or default or what have you. But I went ahead and chose the dark scheme. And then there's going to be a development drop-down box on that same screen. And if you click on that, there'll be an option there for C#. It looks like a C# sign. And you want to make sure you click that from the drop-down. Again, that's just going to save a lot of headache and time later on when you're doing your configuration. And then once you move from that screen onwards, you're going to be presented with a screen that looks something like this one, where we can open any existing projects. I don't have any recent projects, where we can create a new one. But I don't really care about doing any of that stuff. I'll walk through the process of exploring Visual Studio and creating a new solution and things like that later on. So for now, we just want to see that the process was fine and we could run the software. So I'm just going to click on the continue without code. And then that's going to fire up our interface. And that's kind of it. There we go, right? So there's not much going on here, but like I said, in a follow-up video, I'll walk us through how to go about creating new projects and exploring the different parts and pieces of the IDE. But for us right now, that's it. So in this video, went online, we searched for and found Visual Studio Community, we downloaded it, we've installed it, and now we can see that it's up and running. So we're ready to go. All right, I'll see you in the next video.